Hi everybody, it's Carol Hansen from Want Her Outfit, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Talibah Sylvia, who I met at a recent Fashion Revolution event. I was for new and emerging sustainable brands, and I was so impressed by the wonderful textures and colors, exotic vibrant colors of the fabrics that Talibah was showing, that I had to learn more, and when I did, I had to share it with everyone. So Talibah, thanks for joining me today. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Carol. Yes, I am Talibah.
Sorry.
Sorry, no problem. I am the founder of House of Sankofa Collections, or House Collections, which is a platform to promote seamstresses, artisans in Ghana and the UK. Yes.
And but you have a background in community development, don't you?
Yes, I do. Well, I started off in the community development field, I'd say about over 20 years ago. I started in the youth work sector, actually, and I was a photography tutor for a few years, and done some work with young girls, women, and then moved on to working with families, and then working with early intervention projects as well, sort of like helping young people to actually stay in education. So I've done quite a bit of work very closely with social services as well, to help support families. And I'm also a massage therapist. So I've done a lot of community work with using massage therapy as well. Also have taken massage into the corporate sector too. So I've got quite a mixture of skills, so to speak.
You have, and not much in fashion in terms of background. So it's always lovely. I love talking to people who come into quite a different area and they've had a journey like that. So it's always very inspiring. So what inspired you to start House of Sankofa?
Yeah, well, I've always had really a love for fashion design. I think from about 14, I've always been quite interested in fabrics. My mum was a seamstress when she was in the Caribbean growing up, and my grandmother was a really successful seamstress as well in St. Vincent in the Caribbean. When my mum came over here, she stopped sewing professionally and went into another trade. But for me, I always saw the sewing machine growing up. My mum was always sewing something or repairing something. But I felt, as I reached about 17, 18, I just felt that the fashion was something that wasn't going to necessarily, at that time, help people. And I was drawn to really helping the community, and sort of like putting some of the skills that I was developing as a young woman into the people that were around me. And the love for Africa, really, I think that was something that was quite innate within me. It's like I knew about the Caribbean, but I knew that there was a further calling about knowing more about my identity, that where we were originally from. And I had an opportunity to go to the Gambia with a friend of mine and my daughter and her daughter. And it was just a holiday. But when I went out there and I saw the fabrics, the prints, the colours, the textiles, it was like all that sort of like the seeds of fashion and textiles that were within me were suddenly, they're literally fed. And we got speaking to a gentleman who had a family who done this amazing tie-dye in the backyard. And we were like, first straight away, me and my friend were on the same wavelength. We were like, oh my God, can you imagine those as like a duvet covering our own room? We were thinking, and I was like, God, I can imagine some lovely cushions with that tie-dye and so forth. So while we were there for 3 weeks, we ended up actually creating some soft home furnishings from this gentleman. And it felt really good to be able to pay him
Yeah.
you know, using our currency.
Yeah.
And that conversion was so heavy for them as well. It was such a, you know, so we paid him really well. And he said to us, wow, I'm able to send my daughter to extra lessons now for her schooling. And that just felt really good. And that was without me knowing at that time about social enterprise and so forth. These terms weren't really, I didn't know about them. And they weren't used regularly either. Ethical, sustainable fashion, these were not words that were commonly used. Came back to London and I got on with what I was doing, my work and so forth. And then some years later, I had an opportunity to go to Ghana. And it's very easy to actually meet and start working with seamstresses in Ghana because they are commonplace.
Right.
It's where when you come to London, you get the hairdressers everywhere. It's like seamstresses and tailors are around abundantly, because everyone really gets most of their clothes actually made for their own selves. You know? So I started a small collection of clothes then. And again, not looking at sustainability, just thinking, wow, this will be really amazing to just have a lovely collection of clothes made in Ghana. And that's what I done. I came back here and then there was quite a demand. Everyone wanted something that I'd had on and so forth. But again, I didn't seize the opportunity right then because the distance as well and not having, you know, at that time, we didn't have WhatsApp either. And it was like quite difficult to keep that connection. However, despite being in the community work and my heart being there, I was quite unwell in 2016. I was very unwell actually. And when I came out of that, I realized that, you know what, Talibah, life is too wonderful and sometimes too short not to do what you really love. And I just thought that's when I decided, you know what, I actually really need to take steps and look at actually building a business, working in Africa. So that's the short journey as to how I started.
So with that journey, once you recovered your health, how did you go about finding the artisans to work with in Africa? I appreciate you say they're kind of they're in abundance, but how did you find the artisans you particularly wanted to work with and were able to produce clothes that you felt that were going to work in selling elsewhere?
I was able to find them because when I decided that I'm actually going to build a business that has to work like a social enterprise, if not a social enterprise, I decided in January last year to actually take this quite seriously and applied for a place at the School for Social Entrepreneurs. And I was fortunate where I went through quite a rigorous process and was selected for one of the fellowship places.
Wow.
And that was amazing in regards to me learning how the importance of measuring impact if you're working in other parts of the world or working on your project, wherever that might be actually. And then I sort of realized that that's what was missing. It was like how to actually set a solid foundation that was going to be sustainable, that was actually, I wasn't going to just go to Ghana again or any part of Africa again, get a few items made and come back over here. I needed to make, one, there had to be solid contacts being made, but two, I needed to really have understanding of the strategy that was needed, and an understanding as to how to find out about who I was working with their needs, and how to recognise what I was actually bringing to them. So fortunately, one of my fellows, who's Ghanaian, I spoke to him and said, "Oh, I'm having some problems sourcing. I've got a young woman that I was in contact with in Ghana on WhatsApp. I was introduced to her by somebody else, but she wasn't really getting what I wanted, which was the whole part of it, the fabrics, where they were being printed and so forth. I think she wanted a quick sort of make some things for me and quickly make some money, and that was it. I wanted something, like I said, that was actually going to be longer lasting and have a positive long-term impact.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to his mother, who was she used to teach at the University of Ghana. She used to teach fashion. So I thought, amazing. And she's got students. I thought, tick, tick, that's just
absolutely.
So I was introduced to her last year while I was on my fellowship program, and I've spoke to her about my business, about it, about the social enterprise aspect of it, and about the needs of her students and what her needs were, and also what mine were as well in regards to the kind of business I was trying to set up. And she completely got it. She really understood what I was talking about. So I thought that was fantastic. So that was an amazing, so that was one contact I made. When I went to Ghana in March, it was her that I went straight to. She'd made some product for me actually last year in November. I'd had some hood scarves made from her and her students, which was great. So it was fantastic to go and see her in March and actually see her work, be in her working environment actually.
And what's her working environment like?
So that was quite interesting because it's she works in the Cape Coast, which is the southern region of Ghana, just south of Accra, the capital. And it was just this huge concrete building, and she's at the very top of the building. And as we were going up the steps, I just thought, there's so much things we take for granted. It was like, I don't know, and the little complaints that we make here as well in the UK, and I just saw there's so much poverty. That's what shocked me. It was like just going up those steps to where she works. It was an eye-opener, just that alone. But when I reached upstairs, it was amazing. It was a great open plan space. She had a huge balcony, and she had about 15 women there who were on sewing machines, working really, which was really fantastic. And they were really happy to see me as well, because they'd heard lots about this lady in London who was looking forward to working with them and so forth. So that was fantastic. And there was a couple of small children there as well. So I asked Hannah, the children here as well, sort of thing. And she said, well, some of the young women, once they've had their babies, they can no longer continue, in their education and so forth. So I've got space for about 2 children, two mums who can come with their 2 children. Brilliant. But she'd like to expand that. So I thought, great, that's something that I can think about. How can I help? And how can I support? How can we grow and develop that? Because obviously there's a need. There's lots of women, young women especially, who want to learn the trade and want to do this. And she can probably accommodate a lot more if she had more space. That's something that we can think about. But it was really good to see them at work. And to ask them questions about what they think about working there as well, and what their future hopes are. And so fabulous. Fantastic. And just to hear that they're also ambitious as well. They've all got a vision of how they see their future. It's not like, okay, I'm doing this now because I have to. It's like, I'm doing this because I'm hoping that one day I can go to university. And they're also aspirational. So fantastic. For me, I just felt very empowered when I came back from Ghana. We've got this thing, I think, in the West where we feel that we're empowering others. And I'm quite against that way of thinking, actually, because when you're thinking about empowering someone, it's coming from a level where you think they are disempowered. And it's like, actually, I came back really elevated from listening to aspirational stories.
That's amazing. So are they actually making the textiles, weaving the textiles themselves, or and dyeing the textiles, or are they just making garments from ready-made textiles? How does it work?
So I've got a few makers actually in Ghana. So Hannah and her students, That's one group, and they are seamstresses,
Right.
and they are learning the technicalities of pattern cutting and so forth. So they'd be given the pattern, and they'll be taught how to actually create a garment from a pattern or from a design. So when it comes to the batiks and the tie-dyes, I've got a family who are in Cape Coast, and they are my family of batik makers.
Fabulous.
And I was introduced to them by Hannah, who's my main seamstress. So we went to spend a day with them, and they actually created a one-day workshop for me and my mum.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, it was amazing. Where and some of the filming that I was actually had on a loop at the Brand Museum event was actually Doris actually doing a part of the batik process.
Yeah, I remember that. It was fabulous.
Yeah, the finished product was actually there, so people could actually see and feel the finished product. So there's a family in Cape Coast as well who are who actually they actually batik. They do batik and tie dye.
Right.
And they do stitched tie dye as well, which is a really lovely effect. So I was there for a day and watched them do that. So that's a really lovely connection. Because once again, just to see, just for them to know that, that their livelihoods, just a tiny aspect of their livelihoods can be improved. By this connection. Is really fantastic. It
is amazing. So are they using natural dyes, or are they using they are?
Yeah. So, oh no, sorry, I was just nodding my head like I knew it was gonna. They because that's what I asked Doris. Actually, said most of the dyes are from India.
Okay.
And I said, do you know if they are natural or chemical? And she said, I think they are a bit of both.
Right.
But she's 100% sure about that. So in regards to the natural elements being used, that's something that I'm going to be doing more research on.
Yeah.
And understood for them where they are. It's really tricky one, because it's almost a luxury to think about where the origins of where something is coming from when you're in that state of poverty.
Absolutely.
When I saw the process of the tie dye and some of the waste being thrown by the side of the house, the way I was like, I wanted to say, oh no, haven't you got somewhere else to? Isn't there another? And I realised there is no system for that type of waste to go. No. So I just thought, okay, Talibah, that's something else I'm going to have to deal with on the next level.
Yeah.
Now it's about how can I help a little bit of social movement here. How can I help the socio-economic the aspect of people's lives with the work that I'm doing, and then the environmental factors, which is something that is also really, central to House of Sankofa Collections.
Yeah.
But I have to look at that a little bit separately. I cannot look at that. I can't deal with that right now. Otherwise, I think most of my makers, I wouldn't actually probably be able to work with them yet. So I thought I just had to make the decision that that's something that that House of Sankofa Collections with Ghana, that side of things, that's something, it's going to be a process.
Yeah. And I think that's fair enough. You've got to start from where people are, haven't you, from that point of view? And there is so much going on in the field of sustainability, and nobody's quite there yet anyway, that it's baby steps, and giving them an opportunity to start with, to be able to work with you, and then to build up the kind of the criteria, that's just amazing, because you're taking them on your journey with you. Yes, and that's exactly what it feels like. I've got so I was also introduced through my business advisor at Portobello Business Centre, actually Maria. She told me about this fantastic woman that she knows who works in Ghana, and she works on lots of children's projects and works with women as well.
So while I was over there, I made a connection with Toyin. I reached out to her, and she introduced me to a lady who has started a company called MBA Mode, and it's a fashion school. And part of the school works with the young women who were living on the streets, who were susceptible, vulnerable to sexual exploitation.
Yeah. So
she has part of the branch of her project works with those women specifically, and the rest of her students are women who are interested in developing skills in fashion illustration and who would like to go on to university. But they've all got some sort of need that has been identified for them to actually have that place. And going to visit that school was also such an eye-opener, and just amazing to see the work that's been done. And you know, straight away she showed me some purses that were made by the students, and they'd actually printed the fabric as well, and they were gorgeous. And I said, you know what, however much you've got there, can I just take them please, because I want to show people in London. You know, they're so lovely. I had them on my table actually at the Brand Museum. And they just,
I remember them. They were absolutely gorgeous. Yes.
And they could be used as sort of like bag tidies, so you put them in your handbag and put the bits and pieces in there and stuff like that. Amazing. People love them. So, and I'm growing a connection with her as well. So what I'd like to do is actually set up a project with her where there's some sort of competition that for the students, that whoever designs the best accessory gets an opportunity for them to be showcased at one of the events that I'll be doing this year.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, so I just thought that would be really good, because part of House of Sankofa, it's also, you know, it's getting the products in, but it's also promoting the artists, artisans, the students, the people who are making them, and that promotion comes in lots of different ways. You know, speaking about them, letting the world know about what they're actually doing, and seeing the support that they can actually get from some of the contacts that I might have as well. And on the bigger picture of things, I'd love to create an opportunity where some students can actually come to London, because London is like the heartbeat of the fashion world. And
absolutely.
It's incredible for, you know, a few of them, to some great students, to actually be able to be funded to come over to London to visit, you know, the London School of Fashion, and
it would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Albert Museum and so forth. So that, you know, that's a longer vision for the House of Sankofa Collections.
Oh, it's amazing, because it's so much more than just simply offering a market opportunity for Ghanaian artisans, isn't it? It's so much more than that, and that's really where your community development work comes into play, doesn't it? And your love of community, bringing people together like that, and giving people an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have. So where are you selling the products at the moment?
So they'll be on my website. So I've got lots of work to do in regards to actually getting things out there. So they'll be on my website, on Etsy as well. This is all developing over the next 2 weeks, actually, because it's nearly there. And also I've accepted a platform on nurturecollective.co.uk. So some of my products will be on there as well.
Fantastic.
And
then what social media platforms do you use?
So I'm on Instagram as House of Sankofa Collections, or it's actually Hoff's Collections, which is HOFS Collections. And Instagram's the same as well, Hoff's Collections.
Fantastic. So people can get in touch with you through social media as well, and then hopefully when the website will be up and running. So you mentioned some shows. Are you planning on doing trade shows or other sustainable fashion events, or what shows are you talking about, or are you looking at doing?
So I'm hoping to do a couple of festivals in the summer. One being the Katenge Festival, which is in London, and that's in August. So I don't have the date actually to hand. So that's the most, that's what I'm planning to do.
Right.
And then there's a couple of others, which is no point in me mentioning because I haven't been confirmed for places on those yet. But everything will be updated on my website. So the website is up and running. It is actually up and running. So people can visit hofscollections.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for spending the time with me. I had goosebumps going up and down me when you're telling me particularly about the opportunities being given to young girls who are vulnerable young girls being brought off the street, because it is just so important. And it's so important, I believe, as well, for us not to, as people in the West, is not to kind of go in and just offer a marketplace for people, or just buy their, as you said earlier in the interview, just to go in and leap in and buy their products, because that's not really helping them in the long term, is it? What you're proposing to do is a far more long-term strategy and will give them far more opportunity. So I'm wishing you every success with it. And can't wait to see the products up there on Etsy as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Carol.
All right, take care, and obviously I'll be posting the interview with the links, the comments as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol, and I'll send the pictures over to you.